Do you want to learn what the hell's going on with the NFL and all these rules? Well, I'm here today to talk about them for you. Because today we're talking about pre-snap penalties. What are they? How do they work? And what dance will the Zebra crew do to let us know what they called? Let's get started. First up, we're going to have the false start, an offensive penalty. You're going to see a false start called when one of these big meatballs on the line decide to go moving around before the center slab of meat can snap the ball to the quarterback. No play in the game of football can begin until the football is snapped. And because of this, if any of the meaty boys on the line move even a little bit, you're going to get the ref doing the cha-cha, and we know a false start happened. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the big deal? Just get back on the line and start over, right? No! The offense is going to have to move their asses back 5 yards in the opposite direction than they had planned. The down will repeat. Since a fresh set of downs is only 10 yards, 5 yards added just for feeling a little twitchy is a pretty big deal and can really mess up some offensive plans. I'll cover downs and things involving the field and setup in another video. Now, I bet you're wondering, wait, what about if the defense decides to feel all twitchy on the line? And I'm glad you asked. When a defensive player moves improperly, this is going to be called offsides. Generally speaking, the defense gets a little more wiggle room than the offense does. Offsides is called when any defensive player crosses the line of scrimmage before the center snaps the ball. The line of scrimmage is that imaginary line marked by the ball on the field. No cha-cha this time, just a little bit of sassy hips. Now, these two calls make up most of the pre-snap penalties you're going to see in a football game. They're the meat and potatoes of the pre-snap. And just like a false start, it'll be a 5-yard penalty against the team that committed one of these heinous crimes, which in this case is the defense. In fact, all the penalties we'll talk about today will be 5 yards each, with the only exception being if the play is starting within 5 yards of the end zones, because in this case, the penalty becomes half the distance of the goal because there isn't 5 yards left to move. Now, as this is the NFL we're talking about, we have to get needlessly complicated about all this. What if a defensive player crossed the line, committing an offsides, but this time he contacts another player from the other team? Is this just an offsides anyways? No, of course it's not. It's another thing that happened, so it gets its own name. In this case, the ref would call an encroachment foul. Sounds serious. And it involved 2 players and is defined differently. It must be a worse penalty than the regular old offsides. Nope. As we said just a second ago, 5 yards just the same as offsides. It's just an offsides with an extra step. Now, if the player hit the absolute shit out of the other player that he contacted, that would get a bigger penalty, but that's a different story and a thing for another video. Now, don't worry, we have another defensive penalty that's flavored just like offsides and is the neutral zone infraction, about as bad as a parking ticket. This one is again similar. Defensive deli slice moves, not necessarily enough to normally get a flag. However, this time, the movement causes a player on the offense to also move. Since the offense moved, but was caused by the defense, this is not a false start, as it normally would be if the offense moved. But this will be a neutral zone infraction and will affect the defensive team and will also be 5 yards. Now, you might have noticed that if a false start is called, the one that's on the offense, the play is always whistled dead or stopped by the officials. However, if the call is on the defense and the ball is snapped immediately after, they usually won't stop the play and the offense gets what's called a free play. A really good center and quarterback combo can get really in sync about this, and they can frequently get the snap off just in time once the defense fucks up. Basically what happens is the offense gets a play with no risk. If they get a good gain of yards over the 5 that would have been awarded by the penalty, they'll deny the penalty and the play will stand as it happened on the field. If the defense does something good, let's say they intercept the ball on that play, well, guess what? Too bad, Shug. That ball's coming back and you still get the penalty against you. Again, more on this in another video. And I know, I keep saying this, but the series needs to start somewhere. I can't cover everything in one video. Go ahead and subscribe if you like this, though, and you'll be able to see all the future videos and keep up with our NFL rule explainers. Anyways, back to it. We do have a few more penalties to cover now, but these ones are pretty self-explanatory, like the delay of game. The offense takes too long to snap the ball, and the gigantic clock in the background goes to 0. That's right, I Dream of Jeannie comes out. And you guessed it, 5-yard penalty, repeat of downs. Now you might wonder, can you game that rule in hyper-specific situations, like at the end of a game? And you bet your juicy ass you can, and the NFL has made rules to prevent it. But that's for another video talking about the end of game rules. Another rule you'll see pre-snap on the offense is illegal shift or illegal motion, and both are very similar. Basically, only one member of the offense can move at one time after everyone gets set in their general places. Linemen can never be in motion, or it's the first thing we went over, a false start. If two players decide to dance at the same time, illegal motion, 5 yards and a repeat of down. There are also rules about exactly where certain players can line up and where they can move to if they are in motion. And that's why they're called linemen. They get on the line, they stay on the line, and they only get to be on the line. And if they motion at all, that's a false start. More on formations in a later video. The two easiest rules to understand, and the last ones we're going to cover today, are too many men on the field and illegal substitution. In NFL and college football, there's 11 players from each team on the field at one time. In Canadian football, it's actually 12 players. If you have too many men on the field, the ref's going to call for too many men on the field. The same ref motion is also used for illegal substitution, so those are interchangeable by the ref doing his little dance on the field. And for illegal substitution, just don't sub players in like a dick. It has to be in between plays and reasonable. Not an unreasonable rule, really. And you don't really see it get called very much because it's a pretty reasonable rule. Both, just like every other penalty we went over today, is 5 yards and a repeat of downs. Well, this is the first in my series on NFL rules, and I hope you liked it. If you did, let me know. And comment below on the rules that confuse or piss you off the most. Until next time, cheers.